Okay. All right, this is going to be your Q&A test number one at 120 words a minute. Proper name, Foley's and Janet. Now, the pants are hanging on the east side on the little panel.
Yes, the aisle is about 5 feet high.
Are there other aisles in between these where these clothes hang?
There's only the aisle I was standing in, and then there's an aisle here.
This aisle now, I understand, is closed, but at that time was open between these two sections of pants.
Yes, sir.
So essentially, there are two aisles of pants that face north and south.
Right,
That adjoins this, what you marked as the main aisle.
right,
And then there's another here immediately south of those.
right.
Where were you when you observed this thing that was out of the ordinary?
When we first saw this young lady, and I observed her right around in here. She was right around here. We were walking around this partition, this aisle.
So you were walking to the east around it.
We were walking toward the east and turning a little toward the nightgowns and pants rack.
And she was on the east side of the pants rack. Where was she standing?
She was standing east of the aisle, more toward the south wall of this store.
And what did you observe as you passed by?
When I saw her, she was zipping up her coat, and above the zipper area, I saw white nylon standing up, and her coat was bulging.
Could you describe this person for me?
A very young lady.
If this person were present in court, could you identify her?
Yes,
Is she present in court today?
she's sitting at the table in front of me in the middle of the other two ladies. She's wearing a black top, black slacks.
As you noticed this nylon, her coat bulging, this nylon sticking out of the top of her coat, what happened after that?
I went up to her. I had my ID from Foley's in my hand, and I said, I'm with Foley's Security. I'd like to talk to you. She turned away from me and walked toward a rack that had nightgowns in it, or on it, excuse me.
Where is it located?
It's a little closer to the south wall of the store, just next to the pants rack.
And could you describe that rack for me? Does it physically look the same as the pants rack?
I don't understand. It doesn't physically look the same. What do you mean?
Does it have the same shape?
No, it's a hanging rack. In other words, they have nightgowns, long nightgowns hanging from it, and it's a round rack about 5 foot around.
And as she walked toward the nightgown rack, what happened next?
I went to her and took her arm. When she turned around, her coat was open. I saw no pants then, but we started struggling at that time.
Could you describe the struggle for me?
She was trying to leave, and I was trying to prevent her from leaving. I was attempting to take her to the security office.
Okay.
When we initially started struggling, I fell to the floor. Then I got back up, and the lady that was with me, Janet, went for help. I got one cuff on. She managed to reach with her right hand and scratch my hand, and she broke my watch at that time and made several gouges on my hand, about 3 gouges.
All right. Did this person seem to have her wits about her?
She was very hostile and very irate. I didn't even think she was making much.
Okay, this will be the Q&A test number 2 at 120 words a minute. Proper name is Colby.
Okay.
So did you already record this part? Said it?
Yeah.
The Colby?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you said that you didn't have any idea how far it was. You didn't know whether you would be facing that condition for maybe another half mile or maybe 5 miles. Is that right?
Well, I just assumed because it hit so suddenly. I assumed it was just a certain field there that was blowing. And I assumed that as soon as we would get by that spot in the field, it would probably be like it was before. But I didn't have any idea how wide a spot in that field was blowing.
You couldn't see that. That was more or less a guess on your part.
Yes, a guess.
Do you know if your radio was on in the car when you were driving?
I don't think it was. I don't know for sure, but I don't think it was.
If you were going to be going a long distance, it would be pretty normal to turn on the radio for a 2-hour trip.
Sometimes I listen to the radio, but I'm not really that much of a radio fan either.
Are you a smoker? Perhaps smoking at this time?
No, I do not smoke. Quit a long time ago.
Let's say you had your speed down to about 5 miles an hour. How long had you traveled at that speed?
Well, I don't remember really. Not long. It seems like just a matter of a few seconds.
So your best recollection was a matter of a few seconds?
Yes, sir.
From the time you were at 5 miles an hour until the time of the collision?
Yes.
This storm then was much worse than any storm you had ever experienced before in driving?
Yes. I'd never experienced driving like that before.
So I take it you had never been forced to drive in conditions where you just couldn't see where you were going?
No, sir.
This was a very unusual situation for you.
Yes.
Apparently, you were visible enough when you went back after the accident that you could stop and the cars could see you and they were able to stop.
Yes. I went back. I think it was somewhere like 100 yards back past the fence line on that field where the dirt was not blowing that bad, where people could see me. Yes.
When you say that field, is there just one field right there, or is there another field that is farther east beyond that field, or do you remember?
Well, I was referring to the field that was blowing dirt.
All right. Was there a field that was east that was not blowing dirt?
Yes, there was that one.
As you went west and got out, was that also true that the blowing dirt stopped after you got beyond that field?
Yes. Of course, it was just a matter of a mile, or maybe not even that far into Colby. But after you got by that particular spot, it wasn't blowing there again.
How much farther was that field as you went west? Colby was about a mile. How much farther was it?
I would say maybe that field is, if it is a half-mile long field, I would say several hundred yards.
Was this sort of a terrifying situation to find yourself in, with cars backed into each other and the wind blowing and the dust storm and not being able to see anything? Or would you say that is a little strong?
I don't know if you would use the word terrifying, but it worries a
Okay, this is going to be Q&A test number 1 at 100 words a minute. Proper names: Lee Harrison, Lee, Central High School, Wayne Little, Wayne, Highway 50, Turner Road, Highland Drive. For the record, will you state your name, please?
My name is Lee Harrison.
How old are you, Lee?
I am 17.
Do you still live at home with your mother and father?
Yes, I do.
Have you graduated from high school yet?
No, sir. I will graduate this year.
What is the name of the school you are presently attending?
Central High School.
On September 1, 1995, you were involved in an accident. Is that correct?
If that's the day I was riding on the motorbike with Wayne Little, that's right.
Where were the two of you going that morning?
We were on our way to Central High School.
How close did you live to Wayne at that time?
We lived next door to each other.
How did it come about that you were going to ride with him?
I called him and asked him to drive me.
Were you going to enroll that day, or had classes already started?
That was the day we were going to register.
Did you have any particular time that you had to be at school that morning?
We had to be there by 9:05, I think.
Do you recall about what time during the morning the accident took place?
No, sir, I don't.
As I understand it, your home and Wayne's home would be approximately 2 blocks from where this accident happened.
Somewhere near that.
How would you have ordinarily planned on going up to school the day you registered?
I normally rode the bus.
Had you, in fact, ridden with Wayne prior to the date this accident happened?
I rode with him on the motor several times before.
Where did this accident take place?
We had turned off Highway 50 and were riding on Turner Road, but the accident happened where Highland Drive comes in.
In what direction were you proceeding on Turner Road?
I believe we were going north.
Describe to us how you were sitting on the motor.
I was directly behind Wayne and holding on to him.
Could you see the direction in which you were going, or was your vision partially blocked from sitting behind him?
I don't remember.
What is your opinion or estimate of the speed you were traveling within a block or two of the accident scene?
I don't know anything about speed.
Do you remember things leading up to the accident and what took place at the accident scene?
No, sir. All I remember is getting on the motor and going down that street, and that's it.
Were you rendered unconscious there when the accident took place, or do you remember anything about that?
I couldn't tell you because all I remember is being there by Wayne after the accident took place.
Do you recall whether you were thrown from the motorbike or laying under it?
No, sir, I cannot recall.
Do you have any opinion as to the speed of the car you collided with?
I never saw.
Okay. This is going to be Q&A test number 2 at 100 words a minute. And it's just Wayne and Lee for your proper names. Suppose we go on from the point where you start remembering. As I understand it, that was when you found yourself kneeling beside Wayne. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That I remember very clearly.
Could you tell whether he was unconscious at that time?
He was, but he came to in just a little while.
Would you state where you were hurt?
The only place I was hurting was my knee and my foot, and my arm was swelling.
Which arm would that be?
That was my right arm.
What did they tell you was wrong with your right arm?
There was a break around the wrist and a break on the elbow.
Do you recollect that you went to the hospital later that morning?
Yes, sir. Wayne and I rode in the ambulance together.
What, if anything, did they do for you when you arrived at the hospital?
They put my arm in a pack and fixed my legs where they were skinned.
Did they do anything else for you there?
They x-rayed my arm, and then my dad came and took me to the doctor's office.
Then you never were admitted to the hospital as such, were you?
No, sir, I never was.
What did the doctor do for you when you go to his office?
He put my arm in a cast and gave me some pain pills and shots to relieve me, I guess.
Then what happened after that?
My dad took me home.
How long were you in the cast?
About 4 weeks.
Tell me in your own words where this cast was.
It started at my wrist and went up around my elbow.
Was it a plaster of Paris cast or a brace?
It was a plaster of Paris.
Was there anything else bothering you at the time you were in the doctor's office?
I told him my neck was hurting and there was pain down in my back.
You are talking about your low back now?
No, just up in the top part of my back.
As I understand it, you had pain in your neck and upper back. Did you have any other problems?
My knees and my foot were cut, but that was all.
After your cast was removed, was any type of splint put on it at that time?
Just a sling.
How long did you wear the sling, Lee?
About 2 weeks.
Let me ask you this. Did the foot and the knees eventually clear up?
Eventually, they did.
About how long did it take to clear up?
I guess about 2 or 3 weeks.
How about your right arm? Are you having some problems with that now?
It still gives me trouble.
Where does it give you trouble, Lee? And would you explain to me how it gives you trouble?
Well, it won't straighten all the way out, and when it finally does straighten, it pops.
How long was it before the wrist stopped giving you any